So, this is the series I mentioned before my last video. I'll leave a card to skip to the actual thing, but I just want to give a short explanation on my idea for these videos. Unlike what I was thinking, I will have a script for these, so that means subtitles. They're going to be on topics that are too broad to do the format I like, or topics that don't have enough impact on the galaxy to warrant a story. There'll be a third version as well. Topics that I'm planning on doing a what if series on, I want to cover it in this format first to either gauge interest or as a thought exercise with the intent to get your opinion. This entire video format will have the structure of the what if series, with the rambling of the other rambles. If you like them or would recommend something, then let me know. I thought there'd be more to explain, and perhaps there is, and I'm just forgetting, but it's thankfully mostly self-explanatory. Now enough of this, let's get into today's topic. What if lightsabers are more diverse? Most lightsabers we see are the same, albeit with some modification of the hilt to accommodate style, build, and species. There are Count Dooku's and Asajj Ventress's curved lightsabers, Ahsoka's and Yoda's Shotos, Gunji's wood lightsaber, or Maul's double-bladed lightsaber. Still, even with all these, the effects are the same. A straight, round beam of plasma, or two in the case of Maul. But what if, as mentioned in the lore, there are a more diverse variety of lightsaber designs? A traditional lightsaber is based on a sword, with even the broadsaber, a flat beam of plasma instead of a round one, being a thing. That's actually what the darksaber is and why it has a flat blade. Though there is no real explanation on why lightsabers are based on swords, I believe this is mainly because before lightsabers, the ancient Jedi Order used force-imbued blades. Then, over time, a traditional lightsaber was created. Though early versions were hard to wield, and one had to have a battery pack to use. These early limitations were a good excuse not to experiment. Once the technology was tested and improved to perfection, why did they stop there? Some didn't, but these are mainly Sith. There is a lightsaber axe, whip, sickle, pike, and the lightsaber blaster. These are cool and all, but there are so many other medieval bladed weapons that could be made into lightsabers. A mace, scythe, battle axe, battle hammer, halberd, lance, and many more. Now, during the Republic Golden era, I can understand why a Jedi wouldn't want to carry some of these. Imagine a Jedi diplomat arriving to a dispute with a battle axe strapped to their back. However, I would love to see someone like Ahsoka wielding a lightsaber scythe, or Anakin madly swinging a battle axe. I'm going to focus on the Clone Wars and think about this as, before the Republic Golden era, there were more variations anyway. So, what if, during the Clone Wars, Jedi were running around with different shaped lightsabers? Well, first off, I don't think it would change lightsaber forms. All the lightsaber forms are for using a traditional lightsaber, or at least someone similar. There are no lightsaber forms for Jedi going berserk with a lightsaber battle axe. However, I don't think that there will be any specific new forms created. Instead, there will be base guidelines. Basically how to and how not to use our chosen lightsaber. This is because I'm sure that regular lightsabers will still be dominant, so they wouldn't feel the need to create any new forms. The Jedi Order operates on groupthink. They pressure their members to follow everyone else and to conform. By making it non-inclusive to lightsaber variations, they will force many to give up the idea of a unique lightsaber by pure pressure alone. This is basically what they did originally, and the reason why most of the lightsaber diversity was amongst the Sith. However, pushing past this, let's say there's a small sect in Jedi Order that are allowed to and use these unique lightsabers. I'm sure they look for like-minded individuals to carry on this tradition over the generations, and we all know that Anakin and Ahsoka will be part of it. I also think Qui-Gon Jinn would be too, but I don't think that would help him in his duel with Maul. Anyway, him surviving is a whole what if on its own, so I won't delve further. However, though I can't find the comic, another candidate is Obi-Wan. There's a comic that mentioned Anakin that, when he was younger, he had the idea to create a different lightsaber variation. I'm sure he would grow out of it as he gets older, as he does originally, but I'm sure he would at least try it, and later, introduce Anakin, who would then introduce Ahsoka. Anyway, I'm focusing too much on them. The wider point is that, unless it's mandatory, there will only be a few, maybe 100 Jedi, using these unique lightsabers. The only way more to use them is if the High Council widely encouraged it, or made it mandatory, which I believe they would never do. They are stuck in their ways, and I believe this is primarily because of Yoda. Sorry I ruined the image of Mace Windu swinging a mace. Now, these Jedi would likely be more in tune with the weapon than the average Jedi. The reason for this is that they have to create their own style using said weapon instead of using a pre-made form. Besides this, it wouldn't affect their role as a Jedi, at least before the war. There is a main limitation with these lightsabers though, this being that few of these creative lightsabers can effectively deflect blaster shots, so these Jedi would likely have high fatality rates when facing a larger blast-wielding force. Another side to this is both the Republic and Separatist view of these Jedi. Though these Jedi may be few, they can easily be portrayed as a many. Jedi charging to battle with an elegant and refined weapon in their hands is one thing, but a Jedi charging to battle swinging a warhammer is another. This would drastically hurt the Jedi's image. At the same time, they would be under pressure from within the Order to conform. Now, some of these Jedi might just be eccentric individuals who are there to be different, but I believe the majority of them would be rather open-minded, with them being allowed to express themselves and ignore part of the Jedi Order's rhetoric. They would naturally distance themselves from the mainstream Jedi, and eventually the Jedi Order as a whole. Thus, as the war progressed, I see many of these individuals leaving the Jedi Order. Inevitably, the fate of the Jedi Order in the galaxy would be the same, just with a worse image and legacy. The chance of these individuals surviving Order 66 is not likely, even if they left the Jedi Order. They'd be hunted down by Vader, and though a unique lightsaber might help in a fight, it could also hinder and focus against Vader. However, melee weapons weren't the only variations. As I mentioned, there are also lightsaber blasters. There's even a thing known as a lightsaber rifle, a weapon that literally used lightsabers as ammunition and almost killed Darth Vader. Now, there's an interesting side what if. What if the Jedi Order modernized with the invention of the blaster, or just when they had a chance? Perhaps when they grew lazy in the Republic Golden Era. If the Jedi used blasters powered by kyber crystals instead of lightsabers, then what would have happened? Well, for starters, their images PCers wouldn't really make sense. On top of that, they wouldn't be able to survive well in a fight. Though they had precognition, this wouldn't help if they couldn't deflect shots or at least take cover from them. The Jedi would be an already guards but name a paramilitary force. This version wouldn't lead anywhere, at least not that I can think of. Their image would be severely affected, their philosophy about being pacifists wouldn't mean anything, and the fatality rate would lead to them having a hard time maintaining their numbers. However, if they had a kyber crystal powered blaster as a sidearm, that could be a possible compromise. It would probably be something that they would only carry if expecting a fight, but this is feasible. Though it may be uncivilized, during the Clone Wars, it would help their image with at least the clones, likely prevent some Jedi from dancing with the dark side, and help them come up with and utilize better strategies than frontal charges and close quarters combat. Still, no matter what weapon they carry or how it's shaped, this won't change Sidious's plan. If anything, it would help it, as there could be fewer Jedi and their image could be worse. Though Mace Windu rocking up to Palpatine's office carrying a lightsaber rifle would be an interesting scene that I would love to see. Still, even if they vaporized Palpatine and prevented Order 66, the damage was already done. They would be seen as a warmongering organization that killed the beloved leader of the Republic. It would be a miracle if they were allowed to remain on Coruscant, much less keep the powers that they once held. Though, in the long run, this forceful separation could be a good thing for the Jedi, but only if they didn't resist it and are open to it. Though that might just be wishful thinking. However, just to satisfy our fantasy, let's think of what weapon would best fit with some of the Jedi. For Ahsoka, though a scythe would be cool, I think she would more than likely wield two sickles. They allow for reverse grip and dual wielding, so it makes sense. Anakin is a bit harder. He likes to use strength, but he also likes to stab things. Perhaps a halberd version would best fit him, though I don't know how well he is with a staff or pole arms. Obi-Wan, as I mentioned before, would likely use a regular lightsaber, though if I had to think of one, then it would be a spear or whatever he had mentioned in the comics. Someone who would wield a scythe well would be Qui-Gon Jinn. His preference for 4-4 combined with his build would make it a good match. Though it would be awesome if a simple weapon change could thwart the Sith. In reality, Even if the entire order used unique lightsabers, it wouldn't really change anything in Star Wars besides the aesthetic. But it's an interesting thing to think about. Tell me if you think the same, and of any other Jedi you think would use these different lightsabers and what ones. Also, let me know if you want me to do a long series with this, or perhaps incorporate it into another what if. As always, have an awesome day and see you next time.